So he's watching every single story you post. The sunsets, your coffee, that cute little mirror selfie you almost deleted. He saw it all. And yet nothing. No text. No, hey, how are you? No, I miss you. Just quiet except for those little eyes showing up in your views every day. Let's talk about what this really means and, more importantly, what you should do. When he watches your stories but doesn't text, it often reflects a passive kind of interest. He's curious about your life, your mood, what you're doing, but he isn't willing to step forward and engage. It's like standing outside a house and peeking through the windows without ever knocking on the door. That kind of attention can feel confusing, especially when it comes from someone you've had a connection with. It gives the illusion that he cares, but in reality, he's choosing the lowest effort way to stay in your orbit. In some cases, it's not about you at all. It's about him. Watching your stories might make him feel good about himself. He knows you'll probably notice his name in the viewer list, and that's a quiet ego boost. The apology has been. It keeps him relevant in your mind without doing any of the work to earn a place there. This behavior can also be a subtle form of breadcrumbing, where he gives you just enough attention to keep you guessing. He might be waiting for you to reach out first, hoping you'll take his digital presence as a sign to reconnect. There's also a chance that he simply doesn't know what he wants. Some people stay emotionally close without being ready or willing to reconnect meaningfully. He might miss you, apology has been, but not want the responsibility of rebuilding anything. Or he's unsure of his feelings, and watching your stories becomes a safe way to stay connected without any risk. In other cases, he may even be keeping you as an option while focusing his attention elsewhere, making sure the door with you doesn't fully close in case he changes his mind later. What's important to understand is that his attention doesn't automatically mean value. If he truly wanted to be in your life, he'd reach out. He'd communicate. Watching your stories is not the same as showing up. You deserve more than digital breadcrumbs and silent signals. You deserve someone who doesn't just keep up with your life from a distance, but wants to be part of it. So don't confuse his views with effort. Let actions, not likes, views, or story counts, define his intentions. Sometimes a person isn't truly attached to you're, but rather to the idea of you. The apology has been. He might be drawn to the comfort you once gave him, the way you made him feel seen, or how you fit into a version of life he imagines but doesn't actually pursue. When he watches your stories without texting, it can be his way of keeping that imagined version of you alive. It's not about rekindling something real. It's about feeding a feeling, a memory, or a fantasy that doesn't require any effort from his side. This kind of behavior is easy because it's risk-free. He gets to stay emotionally warm without making himself vulnerable. By watching your stories, he taps into a connection that once existed without the responsibility of engaging in a real conversation. It's a one-way form of intimacy. He sees your face, your smile, your day-to-day life, but you hear nothing from him. That distance protects him from rejection, accountability, or having to offer anything meaningful in return. What's more, liking the idea of someone is a lot easier than investing in the actual person. The real you, with emotions, needs, and boundaries, Ben requires effort and presence, but the version he sees in your stories is curated and distant. And that suits him just fine. He can admire from afar, reminisce, even feel close to you for a moment, without ever needing to show up or be consistent. It's emotional convenience at its finest. Understanding this is crucial because it allows you to take your power back. If he's not reaching out, not engaging with the real you, then his presence in your views is just that. Presence, not connection. Don't give too much weight to someone who only interacts with a version of you they've built in their head. You deserve someone who values you not just as a feeling or a memory, but as a real person, in real time, with real intentions. There are moments when someone watches your stories not because they miss you, care deeply, or want to reconnect, but simply because it feeds their ego. It's a quiet way for them to feel important in your life without putting in any real effort. They know that by showing up in your viewer list, they'll spark curiosity, maybe even confusion has been. And that emotional reaction keeps them relevant in your mind. It's a way of saying, I'm still here, without actually saying anything at all, has been. This kind of behavior is often not about you. It's about how they want to feel. If they're unsure about their own worth or dealing with insecurity, watching your stories can give them a little hit of validation. Seeing you look good, happy, or thriving create a sense of connection or control. They feel like they're still part of your world, even if they aren't willing to speak up or take action. It's their way of feeling powerful without the vulnerability that comes with real communication. In many cases, this is a subtle form of manipulation. Without sending a message or initiating a conversation, they still occupy space in your thoughts. You might wonder why they're watching, what it means, whether it's a sign of interest or something more. That wondering alone gives them influence. It keeps you emotionally open to the possibility of something that they're not even trying to build. All they had to do was look, and suddenly they're back in your mind. Recognizing this dynamic can be freeing once the apology has been. Once you understand that it's not about genuine care, but about ego and emotional convenience, you stop assigning meaning to empty gestures. Someone who truly values you will reach out, speak up, and invest in real connection. They won't rely on story views to remind you they exist. They'll show up with intention, presence, and clarity. Until then, don't let a silent glance through a screen shake your peace. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the most accurate. He's just bored. In today's world, people scroll through stories like flipping through TV channels. There's no deep intention, no emotional meaning behind it. He could be lying in bed, waiting for a friend, or killing time on his lunch break, has been. Tapping through dozens of stories without really thinking about who he's watching. Yours just happens to be one of them. It's not always a calculated decision or a hidden message. Sometimes it's simply mindless habit. The tricky part is how easily we read into it. When you see his name show up, especially if there's history between you, has been, it's natural to wonder if he's thinking about you. But attention doesn't always equal interest. A bored view can feel just like a meaningful one when it hits the heart the right way. That's why it's important to step back and look at the bigger picture. Has been. If he's only engaging through views and never through messages, chances are he's not investing any real energy into reconnecting with you. This kind of passive engagement can become a trap. Apology has been. It keeps you in a state of emotional limbo, where part of you is always wondering, what does it mean? You might start posting more, hoping he'll keep watching, maybe even reply. But chasing attention from someone who's just killing time only drains your own. You end up giving energy to someone who isn't truly giving anything back, and it can leave you feeling more empty than before. Real interest shows up differently. It doesn't hide behind silent story views or occasional likes. It picks up the phone, sends a message, makes an effort. So, when someone watches your stories but doesn't reach out, don't jump to conclusions. Once the apology, sometimes it's not about you at all. It's about their own need for distraction. And you deserve more than being someone's temporary cure for boredom. When he watches your stories without texting, it can be his way of testing the waters. Instead of reaching out directly and risking rejection or a complicated conversation, he chooses a safer route, staying visible without being vocal. By consistently showing up in your viewer list, he creates a silent presence in your life, just enough for you to notice and possibly wonder what he's thinking, has been. This subtle form of communication allows him to gauge your response without putting himself out there. He might be hoping that his story views spark curiosity in you. Maybe you'll start posting more. Maybe you'll mention something that gives him a reason to reach out. Or maybe you'll message him first. In this way, he's waiting to see if the door is still open, if you're still emotionally available once apology has been, without taking the risk of being the one to knock. It's a tactic that lets him feel in control of the situation while keeping his emotional investment low. He gets to stir the waters without fully jumping in. This approach can feel incredibly confusing, especially if you still have feelings for him. You might start overanalyzing your posts, how Fuji has been, thinking about what message you're sending through your stories and wondering if he's trying to say something without actually speaking. But the truth is, if he genuinely wanted to reconnect or rebuild something meaningful, he wouldn't be hiding behind views. He would speak up, take initiative, and show up with clarity. This kind of passive testing is often more about his comfort than your connection. You don't have to play along with the silent game. If someone wants to be in your life, they should be willing to engage with honesty and effort, not just peek in from a distance. Has been. Responding to breadcrumbs only keeps you stuck in uncertainty, and your time and emotions deserve more than that. You are not a test or a maybe. You're someone who deserves clarity, consistency, and communication. There are times when a man watches your stories but doesn't text simply because he's confused about what he wants. He may be dealing with his own emotions, uncertainties, or fears, and instead of expressing them directly, he chooses to stay quietly connected from a distance. Watching your stories becomes his way of keeping a thread between you without having to explain himself or make any decisions. It's a silent reminder that he hasn't let go completely, even if he isn't doing anything to move things forward. This emotional confusion can come from many places. He might still have feelings for you, but also fear commitment or intimacy. Maybe he misses the comfort and connection you shared, but isn't ready to deal with what a relationship requires. So, instead of cutting ties or reaching out honestly, he floats in between. It gives him the emotional safety of not losing you entirely, has been, while also avoiding the vulnerability that comes with being direct and open. Once the apology has been, a staying on the edge of your life like this allows him to avoid accountability. He can feel close to you without actually showing up for you. It may look like interest, but it's often just indecision wrapped in digital presence. You might find yourself questioning whether he still cares, hoping that one day he'll reach out and explain everything. But people who are unsure rarely give clear answers. Instead, they tend to linger, leaving you to do all the emotional work of wondering and waiting. You deserve more than emotional half measures. Has been someone who truly values you will make an effort to understand their feelings and act with clarity, even if it means admitting they're not ready. It's better to face an honest goodbye than to be strung along by someone who doesn't know if they want to stay. Don't confuse his quiet presence with commitment. Emotional confusion may explain his behavior, but it doesn't excuse your heart from needing real care, real words, and real actions. Sometimes, when he watches your stories but doesn't send a message, it's because he wants you to be the one to make the first move. He's leaving a subtle trail, a digital footprint that says, "I'm still here," without actually putting himself out there in a vulnerable way. He knows you'll notice his name, apology has been, and he's hoping that it'll spark something in you. Maybe curiosity, maybe nostalgia, maybe the desire to reach out. It's a quiet form of bait, and he's waiting to see if you'll take it. This behavior often comes from pride or insecurity. He might be worried that if he texts first, he'll look desperate or seem like he cares more than you do. So instead of being honest, apology has been, he hides behind passive actions and lets the attention game do the talking. It allows him to feel present in your life without the risk of rejection. In his mind, if you message him first, it confirms that you're still interested, and that gives him reassurance without needing to take a real emotional risk. But relying on someone else to make the first move is not a strong foundation for genuine connection. If he's truly interested, then he should be able to put his ego aside and speak up. Watching from a distance and waiting for you to initiate everything only creates imbalance. Once the apology has been, it places the emotional burden on you while he stays comfortably behind the screen. That's not communication. It's control dressed up as caution. You have to ask yourself what kind of connection you want. If someone isn't willing to meet you halfway, to reach out and express how they feel, then their silent signals mean very little. You deserve someone who's confident enough to express interest directly, not someone who hopes you'll chase them through story views. Communication should be clear, mutual, and sincere, not something you have to guess your way through. When he keeps watching your stories, but doesn't take the time to message you, it could mean he's keeping you on the back burner. This kind of behavior is subtle but intentional. He may not be actively trying to reconnect or invest in you, but he also doesn't want you to move on completely. By staying visible through your story views, he creates the illusion of presence, enough to keep him in your mind just in case he needs that connection later. It's a way of making sure that door between you never fully closes. This mindset comes from wanting control and convenience. If things don't work out with someone else he's interested in, or if he feels lonely down the road, has been, he wants to know that you're still emotionally available. Watching your stories allows him to keep that hope alive without putting in any real effort. It's not about building a relationship with you. It's about keeping you as an option. He may not want to fully commit to you, but he also doesn't want to lose the possibility of having you when it suits him. The emotional impact of being some backup plan can be heavy. You might feel confused, stuck in a cycle of false hope, or often has a wondering why he keeps showing up digitally but never reaches out. It can cause you to hold back from moving or exploring other connections simply because a part of you is still tied to the possibility that he might come back. That emotional hold can be damaging, apology has been, because it keeps you from fully embracing your own worth and clarity. You deserve to be someone's priority, not a backup option from their other plans fall through. Real interest comes with action, effort, and consistent communication. If he's only showing up in your notifications, but not in your messages, then he's choosing to keep things vague for his own comfort. You don't need to stay on anyone's shelf waiting to be picked. You are not a placeholder for someone else's uncertainty. You are worthy of real presence, not just passing views. When he consistently watches your stories but never reaches out, it might be because he's not genuinely interested in building something real with you. Yet, he also doesn't want you to disappear from his life. This kind of behavior is incredibly common and confusing. The apology has been, he may not want to commit, but he doesn't want to lose the emotional connection or the comfort of knowing you're still there. Once the apology has been, watching your stories becomes his way of staying close enough to feel connected, without having to put in any effort or make any promises. It's a pattern that keeps you in a gray area, Paula has been, where nothing is said but everything feels slightly open-ended. You may start to wonder if he's just waiting for the right moment or dealing with something personal. But often the truth is simpler. He just doesn't want something serious. At the same time, has been, he's not ready to completely let you go either. That little window into your life that stories offer gives him a way to hang around without taking real steps toward anything meaningful. It gives him emotional access without any emotional responsibility. The impact this has on you can be frustrating and draining. You might keep holding onto hope, interpreting his views as silent signs of interest, when in reality, he's just making sure the door never fully shuts. It's a quiet kind of control where he gets to stay in your world just enough to prevent you from fully moving on, but never enough to be part of it in any real way. That imbalance leaves you stuck, questioning what he wants, when he's already showing you through his lack of action. You don't need someone who keeps the connection halfway alive just for their own comfort. You deserve someone who chooses you clearly, not someone who lingers in your digital space out of convenience. When someone wants you in their life, they'll show up with intention, not hesitation. Letting go of someone who won't fully hold on to you is hard, apology has been. But sometimes it's the only way to make room for the love and clarity you truly deserve. When someone watches your stories, but no longer communicates with you, it can often be a sign that they still crave your attention. If you once gave him warmth, affection, or admiration, he might still be seeking the emotional boost that came with it. Watching your stories becomes a quiet way for him to feel like he still has some place in your world. Apology has been, even if he no longer makes the effort to be an active part of your life. That view isn't always about interest in your day. It can be about staying connected to the feeling of being wanted. For some people, being noticed is a form of validation, even if they don't reach out or initiate contact. Once the apology has been, they enjoy knowing that they might still occupy space in your thoughts. The apology has been. Seeing your stories keeps that thread between you alive just enough to feel relevant. It's a one-sided connection where he doesn't have to invest anything, but still benefits emotionally. Has been. He gets the reward of presence without offering support, care, or genuine interest in return. This behavior isn't always intentional or manipulative, but it is self-serving. He might not fully understand what he's doing or why, but his actions still affect you. When you see his name in your story views, it can stir up old feelings, spark confusion, or reopen emotional wounds. That small action of watching a story may seem harmless, has been, but it can keep you tethered to someone who is no longer giving you what you need or deserve in return. You deserve more than to be someone's emotional fallback. Your attention, time, and presence are valuable, and they shouldn't be given away for free to someone who no longer invests in you. If someone values your energy, they'll show it through communication and presence, not through silent glances from behind a screen. Recce has been. Recognizing this gives you the clarity to step back, protect your peace, has been, and open space for connections that truly meet you with intention and care.